Welcome to Chaos Divided, your weekly dose of WholesomeHammer, where we explore the hobby, the game, and the lore of Warhammer 40k. We're your hosts, Nurgle Snurgle and BlushingNoiseMarine. This week, after our first few games of 10th, we're sharing our first impressions of this new era of 40k. And for our quote this week, we had to go to the Eldar. They're the talk of the town. And I feel like this is fitting for where they're at right now. We've got a quote from Eldrad Ulthran, Farseer of Ulthwé, and it's, "He who sees his own doom can better avoid its path. He who sees the doom of others can deliver it." And that's from the 4th edition Eldar Codex.
Doom.
I think that's what it feels like to play Eldar right now, is just face your own doom.
And once per phase now.
It's slightly less doom than before.
Less doomy.
It's more doom per turn, less turn one doom.
Mm-hmm.
You get to pretend you're playing a game with Eldar as they methodically destroy your army.
Do you think you're gonna play against Eldar on the weekend?
I think there's enough Eldar players. I think we all are.
Mm-hmm.
I think you're gonna miss some of your bigger feel no pains from previous editions this weekend.
Are you saying there's gonna be mortal wounds everywhere?
I think it's gonna be hard to dodge the mortal wounds, that's for sure.
Unless you're Be'lakor and you give a bubble of "you can't target me" outside of 8 inches.
Actually, honestly, that's probably gonna save you so much.
I think so, yeah. Now that I've have 4 games under my belt, I'm starting to see the synergy of the army. I will have to admit that trying to learn the new rules, with the new core rules and the new index rules, I've gotten a couple wrong, and I would think to myself, what was I thinking? It's clearly stated, but because there's just so much overload, you get excited and you're like, oh, this is a really great ability, and then you read it again, you're like, oh, that's not what that's supposed to do. But I have to say that I really like the new demons and what they're kind of doing with them, so I'm quite pleased. How do you feel about your Chaos Space Marines?
I am definitely missing the durability they had in 9th, and that's kind of where I wanted to maybe start off the conversation, was about toughness and how hard it is to kill things, because I feel like I lost a lot of durability. And for an edition that's supposed to be less killy, I feel very much like Chaos Space Marines are a glass cannon-y faction in a lot of ways.
Mm-hmm. Do you find that way in your saves or in your toughness?
Well, I lost a lot of Feel No Pains.
Mm-hmm.
And I lost a lot of illusory supplication used to be a massive way to protect a Terminator block. Mm-hmm. And if I look at how I used to play them, I'd run a Dark Apostle up the board with them. They'd get illusory supplication, so they can only be hit on 4-ups. You can't reroll hits against them. I gave them a 5-up Feel No Pain and the rune for -1 to wound, so you couldn't wound them on 2s ever. And now they have tough 5.
Oh.
And a 4-up invuln. So they did get better in that respect, and having a 2-up save is more impactful than it used to be.
Because of the less AP.
Yeah, but, any big guns shooting at them, just rip them apart.
Yeah. So do you find that there's been some buffs that Chaos Space Marines received?
I think the Dark Pact is super impactful. We saw that in our game.
Oh my, did we ever.
I think to maybe let the cat out of the bag, Be'lakor charged into a 5 block of Terminators in Abaddon, and then Be'lakor is the one who died.
Meanwhile, the Hellbrutes right next to him, which was the biggest threat I should have gone after.
That aura of both Dark Pact abilities is deadly, combined with the critical hits on 5-ups.
Yeah.
It's just...
I will say that I did say, I just want to see how this goes. And I saw how it went, and I got saddy face.
It was a feels bad moment, because I think Be'lakor is... he's not tough enough.
No! There's some high strength weapons still in the game.
Mm-hmm. he kind of got the same treatment Abaddon did, where like Be'lakor can still fight, he can still do some damage, but because he's a low number of attacks, he's really susceptible to invul saves. So he really needs to get some like devastating wounds through. But he's become a support character, which is what they kind of did with Abaddon too. Like you want him for his buffs, you want him for his 5-up leadership. You
just don't want him in well, you kind of want him in combat. He is like a
Abaddon, yeah, he's still a beatstick, but he's not the beatstick he was.
Yeah.
So he's way easier to kill.
Yeah, because he's tough 5 now.
He's tough 5, but he lost his like -1 to wound. He lost his first save doesn't count. Yeah. He lost his wound cap. Like it used to be like a lot had to go into him to.
Like at least 3 turns sometimes. And then he was healing, and then he was like, he was nuts.
And now he's like a spicy Terminator, and Terminators are easy to kill.
Mm-hmm. Well, you say easy. I killed 2.
But it depends on the game. Like I lost 6 Terminators to 1 Knight's shooting in another one of my games. Whereas like in the past, that probably would have been 2. Mm-hmm. So there's certain weapons out there that just demolish them. Like anything that's AP2, damage 3, and like 6 or more attacks just destroys them. Like even if it's a strength 8, strength 9, like that wounding on 3s doesn't seem to matter.
Yeah, Be'lakor losing D3 plus or D3 plus 3, and then ignoring invulnerable saves definitely cut his weapon for sure.
I think you brought a great and clean one to our game. It was not tough enough.
It's not. We've talked about this. I know you guys say tough 13. I say tough 14. Multiple 7. He needs to be tougher because, they die. Like without the 4-ups, he's toast. Because there's, like I said, there's a lot of weapons. There's a lot of strength 14 weapons, strength 16 I've seen. Like it's just... or even 12. Yeah,
like realistically, enough las cannons are going to just blow him apart. Either that or more wounds. Like there needs to be something. But yeah, I don't think like the Great and Clean one is. Well, I think you can give the Keeper of Secrets a 5-up, feel no pain. So
I know. Oh, I know.
That would actually mean that the Keeper of Secrets is tougher, because I think it has 2 less wounds maybe.
And she's faster. She's got better weapons.
She is faster. I'm thinking about her. I'm thinking about getting a Keeper of Secrets, and honestly, like some of the big demons are like I'm now running 2 Demon Princes because they're just phenomenal. You need invul saves now. You need something to like weather the storm against those like bigger guns. You know, if you're fighting Knights, Eldar, Tau, like you need something that can just like absorb those shots. Guard are going to be the same thing. Like those big things that you don't really want going into your kind of like tanks or kind of your mid-size like high armor save, but no invuls. Like you need something that's a bigger distraction against those.
I've been seeing that people are playing models with invulnerable saves, like you said with guard. I haven't really heard much about people playing guard.
No, I feel like they went from a very spicy faction at the end of 9th to just suddenly not on the table. I think you need to have that. Like even bringing a Land Raider, it's got a 2-up save, tough 12. Like sometimes it makes it to turn 5 completely fine. And like I played a game against Orcs, and it weathered so much like a champ because that tough 12 just like shut everything down. Dark Obscuration shut down a lot of the shooting at it, and I was able to just like keep it on the table forever. And then I've also had it pop turn 1.
Was that because like orcs don't have high strength, but whereas like say knights that you've probably been popped off, they have high strength? And they're also hitting on 2s, rerolling 1s, and wounding on 2s, rerolling 1s. I thought we got rid of that.
I know. The less rerolls, as I haven't noticed that yet.
Well, don't forget, we had a year of chaos, didn't we? So this is
I
your
think I
reputation is
missed.
a little. Oh, you missed the year of chaos. Me too.
I think I was playing
we all
Tau at
did.
that point.
Oh, yes.
I didn't get the year of chaos.
Neither did we.
But no, I think the thing that makes me sad, and we talked about this after our game, is that like being promised a tougher edition, like a higher endurance, and then not feeling it, almost makes it worse.
It's a little slap in the face, yeah.
Like I feel like a Land Raider went from tough 9, which in 9th was phenomenal, because like very little was above that. Like a las cannon was strength 9, plasma was strength 8, so like most things were wounding it on a 4 or 5. To now tough 12 is kind of that like
it's not a sweet spot.
It's not.
13 would be nice.
13, which like for a Land Raider, I feel like tough 12 is fine, but like it maybe is a little too expensive for what it has. The thing about it is the thing that I think is the point sink in it is the assault ramp. So you like almost like if you want to use it, it has to be almost like a suicide vehicle. Which
or you just like you drove it, unloaded, and then just parked the car on the or the Land Raider on the objectives.
Yeah, and it's just like okay, like it doesn't feel like the lore around a Land Raider is that it's like this like big old like remnant of like another era of like hardcore warfare, and it just kind of feels like it's a tank.
Transport truck.
Yeah, it's like a truck that doesn't get blown up by a straight las cannon shot, but a few will.
Well, I have to say that after our game, I immediately changed my list. It's like, okay, let's go to the drawing board. Because like I played the Beast of Nurgle and Horticulus Slimex, and I just wasn't happy with how they performed. And I want to really like them, but I don't think there's a place for them right now. They only have that ability to heal at the end of the turn, and that's pretty much it. They don't even have lethal hits. They just have the devastating wounds, and they still hit on 4s. So it's just like, I can't justify them still being like -1-2 damage. Just for 75 points is pretty pricey. But so yeah, I changed my list.
I think some of them, like
yes,
like a couple.
I have found a way to keep them single, and they just sit in deep strike and they wait, because when we're drawing the cards, I've noticed that there's a lot of type of missions that being behind your enemy lines or just finding a bubble or a spot on the table can give you a lot of victory points, and so that's what they're used for. They got the demon prince size base, and they just kind of sit and hide, and I found that's how they're utilized.
That's honestly what I keep the Chaos Bikers on in my list for. Is it's like a 95 point, just like zip around and like, I need to be in the middle, I need to be in the side, I need to be in the deployment zone. Like it's a way to maintain some kind of mobility, because like if you're playing tactical missions, like you could end up needing to be all over the place.
Yeah.
And the last thing you want is like a great unclean one sitting in the middle doing like a deploy teleport homers or something, because like you're like, I need the victory points, but like this is not what this model should be doing.
Yeah. So having little guys in your army is, I think, very beneficial to have.
And that feels how demons should play, is like, this demon just showed up and did this thing, like,
yes.
and I like wasn't planning for it, and then like it's a beast of Nurgle, so like you actually have to deploy, like they're not super easy to kill either, and like you have to deploy enough resources to kill them, because if not, they just stand there.
And then you're putting all those resources into them and not the rest of the army.
So I think that's, there's play for them, but yeah, I think the 6 that you brought, I feel like they just ended up like they killed the things that they could kill easily and then didn't have anything else left to do.
Yeah, like I try to use them to kill, but I don't think that's their purpose. I think what they are is just to fill those pockets that you need to, just for points.
Yeah, like, they would reap through, like, Eldar, because they're strength 6.
True, but like still hitting on 4s is really tough. There's no rerolls. There's no real hits of 1. So I have seen my rolls go like to hit. Oh, I get 1 hit and maybe a wound. That's just not something I want to keep around.
That's fair. Yeah, I will say tank shock is very powerful.
Mm-hmm.
Having both used it and then also been on the receiving end of it, like, you definitely need to be careful about, like, knights now, because that's like a free 6 mortal wounds for them. Because when you're bringing, like, a strength 20 weapon in, they're getting 22 dice. They're very likely going to get 6 mortal wounds in. So it's, if the strength of the weapon is higher than the toughness of what they charge into, you add 2 more dice. So, like, a strength 20 weapon, there's no tough 20. You're looking at 22d6, which is just, it's gross. Bellacor's a monster, though. I think you need to be a vehicle. Yeah, I think for tank shock, you do need to be a vehicle.
I wish they had monster shock.
Some, like, my Demon Prince with Wings has it built in. So I think so the Chaos Space Marine Demon Prince with Wings rolls a number of d6 equal to its remaining wounds, and every 4 is more wound up to 6. Yes. Which is very spicy. Because it also it causes battle shock tests when it flies over something.
Oh.
Yeah.
Poops on it.
Just, yeah.
Poop grenades.
Just... that's not how I imagined it. Was it was the wings of terror or something, but poop. I would imagine Demon Princess also have sneaky poop, so
I'm sure yeah.
Just picturing some, like, space marine, like, wiping like the visor clean and just being like, well, I don't want to fight here anymore. I'm done.
They see a swarm of demon princes above them, like, oh god.
It's like, are those seagulls? No. Oh no.
Well, speaking of demon princes, I also added one to my list.
I think you have a very strong demon prince.
Yes, tough 11.
And it gives
the stealth ability. Yep. And I do like the once per battle, the 3-up invulnerable, and then you can spend the strat to reroll your 1s for invulnerable saves. So yes, so
that's spicy.
I did that against knights when he was against the melee one, and he saved all of them essentially. I think one got through, but yeah. It's spicy.
I love that.
And the Great Unclean One was nearby, so it had a 6-up Feel No Pain.
Oh, that's even better. Oh, that's so good. I love that. So that's the one on foot?
The one on foot, yeah.
That's very good.
So you said something about demons, how they kind of just pop up out of the warp, and that's kind of like how they're playing right now, and that's kind of like what I'm going with. You spend 1 strat at the end of your opponent's turn, and you can pick up 2 units if they're in Shadow Chaos, and you put them in Deep Strike so that they come your next turn. So it's kind of like, instead of 500 points in Deep Strike, you can have over 1,000. Like, there's no limit on it. So just put them up there, and then you can spend another strat if you want them to come within 3 inches. Or sorry, not within, but outside of 3 inches of another unit. They won't be able to charge, but I kind of did it with Blood God yesterday. I put my Plague Bear, like, he has sticky objectives. It was a sticky objective mission, and so he left his objective wide open, so I spent the 1 strat to put them there to make sure I didn't have to be 9 inches away, and I took his objective. And then next turn, he wasn't scoring any. So there's some spiciness where demons just pop out of the warp from nowhere. So Be careful of that. It's gonna be a fun time for demons, I think.
You know what? That feels right for demons,
Yes.
though.
Yes, and that's what I've been wanting for 2 editions now. I want teleportation. I want to like just show up and then vanish and like just kind of scare your opponent, because with the strategy of Bellicor, where he has an aura of everybody in his aura, cannot be targeted if the opponent is outside of 18 inches. So he's kind of doing this protection of them. And so you're forcing the opponent to come to you, and then that opens up their backfield. So that's where the deep striking can come in. And if you think about it, if you put your demons on their objective and you hold it, that whole backline is now Shadow of Chaos, so you can come within 6 inches. So it's just like little plays like that, and finding your opportunities is really good. So you're scoring pretty well.
Yeah, that's definitely something in our game. I feel like the Shadow of Chaos wasn't like neither of us knew what to do with it necessarily.
Yes.
Like it wasn't like I feel like with a little bit more fine tuning, like it's a complicated mechanic, but I think it's a powerful one.
And just finding that perfect timing for it, like making sure that you do A and then B to make it shadow for C to happen. Like there's all these like little mechanics, and I find that demons are in a good spot where yes, you have to finesse it, but if you do make a mistake, it's really hard to crawl back. Like putting your Bellicor against Abaddon was a big mistake, and then I did it again because you were so kind to allow me to put it back on the table, and he did it again, and just
it was yeah.
I think third time, shame on me.
I was a little surprised at how fragile Bellicor was.
Mm-hmm.
No, I mean Abaddon will rip apart a big knight. Like he's still with that AP4, like he's still a blender. He's just not as much of a blender as he was.
Mm-hmm.
But it's like, he went from being set at 11 to being set at 10. Like he's still up there.
He went from like a ninja blender to a NutriBullet blender.
Yeah, it's like
it still blends, but
the stuff is still pulverized. Like it's not pleasant. I will say one thing that I don't love, just from like being able to engage with it. Imperial Knights have a 1 CP fight on death strat, and they can use it on the big knights, and that makes it
and they're full,
difficult.
Right? They're like there's no brackets. It's like full strength, and
I think they count at bracketed, which is only -1 to hit, but if they're honored, then they don't.
Oh, of course.
And if they kill your warlord, then that's when they become honored.
Yeah.
So, but the
you think that should be 2 or 3 CP?
I think it should be 2.
Mm-hmm.
At least. But the struggle is so many of the big knights also have free CP rules.
Yeah.
Like free strat rules.
And like, say for the Overwatch, I've noticed that like 2 knights can do it for free.
Mm-hmm.
So that's a lot of CP saving.
One, it's a lot of like duplicated strats that normally wouldn't be duplicated.
Mm-hmm. And I noticed that like in our game, or my game against the same knight player, he had tons of CP near the end.
Because you're not using it.
Yeah, because they get it for free.
I don't know if there's a way to fix that. Because like they have enough CP because of all the free CP strats, and like I don't know, making it 4 CP is also like silly.
Mm-hmm. Now we did have our first data slate, and one of the things was the points increased, especially for knights. The list that we've played went up 200 points. Do you think that's going to make much of a difference?
I think it will. Towering is still going to be hard to fight around. Mm-hmm. Having played 2 games, we kind of home ruled the second game to kind of not change towering completely, but just like basically played like first floor windows are covered, And that made a huge difference in like my deployment and ability to deploy. I think that amount of increase is going to cut out like basically an Armiger, and on the Chaos Knights like a Warthog, which does dramatically affect their like buffing and like what they can do. So like if you have turn 1, then you can potentially like shut down a big knight from getting their bondsman ability, because you're going like if they're running 3 big knights, they're probably not running 4 armigers
anymore.
So then if you pop one of them, one of the big knights isn't getting their bondsman ability, and you're forcing your opponent to make choices. Whereas when they had a spare, like with a 5-up invuln, it's hard to pop multiple armigers with shooting unless you have a lot of shooting.
Do you think the points increase for Eldar helped?
I think the combination of changing Strands of Fate with the points increases are going to make Wraith Knights harder to play.
Yeah,
like
they're what,
almost
475? Yeah, 475 I think it is.
Yeah, so I mean, how much army do you have left if you bring 3 of them?
Yeah, true. And Night Spinners are 170 now?
Yeah, so I think it definitely like curtails them, but does it change it that much? I don't know. They still have the like, we will. Like they still have the wombo combo. It's just maybe not as big of a wombo combo.
Do you want to do like a little bit of a breakdown of your list?
Of my list? So it's gone through a couple iterations. So the kind of the meat and potatoes of it is Abaddon with 5 Terminators with a Hellbrute. I've put the combi weapons on the Terminators because the 4-up anti-infantry combined with devastating wounds is really nice against like other infantry-esque armies. Now with 5 of them, it's not a ton of shots, but it's enough to kind of rip through a unit before you charge them to kind of soften them up a little bit.
Or even like, I've seen that people are only bringing a few infantry, so if you just get rid of their infantry, then they're pretty much stuck with their big things.
Yeah, and with Abaddon giving them all the march, you can do sustained hits on it on 5-ups. You're probably getting more. So even if you're shooting not in rapid fire, you're probably doing 3 or 4 mortal wounds, which, depending on the size of a squad and what else you can shoot at them, might put them in battle shock territory, which then means they're not holding an objective. It just, again, it forces people to either pay CP or make choices. And so I think that's really strong on them. And then the Hellbrute obviously gives both effects, which is just stupid good.
Yeah.
And then I have a Land Raider, which is nice to be able to pop whatever you want into it to get it across the field. And then I had to bring my boy Lucius.
He is.
Because he's...
Chef's kiss. Like, I got whipped by him.
Very good.
Yes.
He is exquisite now. He is not that expensive for a 8 attack, strength 5, 2 AP, 2 damage. Fights first, which is really where it gets like I played orcs and Lucius was like killing cans. He ripped a war boss's face off before the war boss had to do anything. Like I didn't kill the Knob squad that it was attached to, but I killed the war boss out of it with Lucius because he was just like, nope, you don't live anymore. And he can stand back up now.
Yes. And he still has a teeny tiny base.
Oh, I love his teeny tiny base. It can go wherever it wants. And then I pile him up with 10 legionaries because they give the reroll all wounds on objectives, which is just silly. And you can put 2 power fists in that squad now, so it's a lot of attacks. So it'll rip through infantry. I'm testing out Possessed right now. I don't know if I love them.
Yeah, they didn't really do much for you. They just went in the center and killed some Nurglings.
Which they're cheaper and they're tough 6. They have an invuln, so they're tough enough, and they're 3 wounds. So I think they have some staying power. And they can fight infantry, and they do devastating wounds. So I have them with the Chaos Undivided, so you can give them for 1 CP, full reroll all hits, reroll all wounds, so you can hopefully farm some of that. And then, I brought 2 squads of Noise Marines. Super cheap. They trigger battle shock tests.
Which is so good. Can you have more Noise Marines?
Well, if I don't bring Abaddon, I can make Lucius the Warlord, so you could actually have 6 squads of them, because they become battle line. But with Abaddon in the list, I can only bring 3. I only have 2 squads, and the upgrade sprue thing is so expensive.
It's what, $50 a model?
They're it's $20 for the sprue, but to make 2 squads of 5, you need 2 of them plus a legionary kit. So it's $120 to make 10 Noise Marines. I'm just hoping that Emperor's Children get a release and we get new Noise Marine kits, because
you are BlushingNoiseMarine. You're gonna get them and you're gonna be so happy.
I will then have so many Noise Marines.
We're gonna have to dedicate this whole podcast to new Emperor's Children.
When that is announced, I will make all of you listen to it forever, because I will be I've already okay, this is I'm already thinking about subscribing to Warhammer Plus to watch the one Hammer and Bolter episode that is about Lucius. Because I'm I want to watch it. I have not watched any of the other. I have no interest in the rest of it. I'm
do they not do a free trial type of thing?
You know what? Knowing Games Workshop, no, but I'll look into it.
We might have to change our name to Emperor's Children Divided or something like that for the week.
And then what else? Yeah, I have the Demon Prince on wings we talked about. Demon Prince on foot. It's just a little tougher. It gives benefit of cover in an aura, and like I said, having a few invuln saves around doesn't hurt. And that's basically it. It's not a ton of models, and it's very crash in, fight, and you either win or you lose, which kind of seems to be the way Chaos Space Marines need to play now, because you can't survive not engaging.
How was your game against orcs?
It was good. It was definitely very back and forth. I got Abaddon and the Terminators. I should have put them in the Land Raider, but I didn't. So got Gazgold turn 1.
What?
Oh yeah.
Wow.
What does orcs have? Here we go. So they get bonuses to charging and advance and charge, and just it was they were in my lines. So Gazgold killed Abaddon. Abaddon fought on death, and what's the Grot's name? Makari ate 6 of Abaddon's attacks.
With his 2-up?
Yep.
I can't believe they kept that for him.
I
think they should give Sassy Nurgling his own base and have him go up with a Grand and Clean one, giving a 2-up Feel No Pain or Invulnerable Save.
You know what? I'd be okay with that, because I feel like a little bouncing gymnast Nurgling just taking huge artillery shells in the face, so the Grand and Clean one could just laugh.
Yeah.
Feels Nurgle.
So he can finally walk across the table laughing and jolly.
Because he should be able to do that. His belly mouth laughing, it should be, he should.
Fun
he's a jovial
and joy
guy.
And happiness and gifts and blessings.
All of the blessings of Nurgle. But yeah, so Gazgold wrecked Abaddon. And Makari saved him.
Did you get to kill him, Makari?
The next turn, I had to shoot him with combi weapons to do a mortal wound just to pick him off, and then threw a Hellbrute and a Demon Prince at Gazgold, who just killed him on the charge between tank shock and the Demon Prince's mortal wounds on charge. And I was because orcs can also fight on death, so I needed to kill it in the charge phase.
What's with all these fights on deaths? Come on.
I know, I have to roll for mine.
Oh.
There's a lot of armies that don't.
How badly did you want to flick Makari off the table like you little flea?
It was like, and he slow rolled it. He didn't, like, as he should have slow rolled it, but it was like each one was just like, no.
Oh, that's painstaking.
No.
Time is slowing down.
It's like I needed 3 to go through on Gazgul, and none did. And actually, talking about toughness, there's the like thing on. There's another one. The thing that's on like a dolphin shark thing.
Oh yes, yes.
There's a 4-up invuln and a 4-up feel no pain.
Dolphin shark.
And it's tough 10, and it was harder to kill than a Great Unclean one, and it was only 10 wounds, and it took so much to kill it.
Oh, that's terrifying.
Yeah, so like, why can't
you can have multiples of those too, eh?
Oh yeah, there was 2 on the table.
Oh, huh. Yeah. Something Snagas. I think that's what Beast Snagas. That's what they're called.
Yeah, it was one was the character and one wasn't. Mm-hmm. Or that one was the named one and one wasn't, and like I only killed one of them because I just like.
You're like I'm not into this. So you're just like
I was like I
move away.
I shot like I think one of them took the only thing I shot at it was the Land Raider over 3 turns, so it took 12 las cannon shots to do 7 wounds.
Damn.
I was like, this is and actually I exploded some of them, so like it was probably closer to 14 or 15 las cannon shots did 7 wounds. I was like, what happened here?
So where's your confidence level going into the GT?
Well, before that, I want you to talk about your list now.
Oh,
I want you to
which one? The one that failed me, or the one?
Oh, I've had like 5 lists at this point. I feel like what I thought was good was trash, and what I thought was like, oh, maybe that's not so great. I'm like, no, this is what I'm relying on.
So I kind of went through it a little bit earlier, but I did add Rodicus to my list as well, and he is very killable from what I've seen. But what he does is he adds +1 damage. So he picks a enemy unit, and then any attacks performed on that enemy unit is additional damage. So then my Be'lakor and my Demon Prince sweep attacks are 2 damage now. Be'lakor is D6 +2, and I would say that's what helped me kill the knight with Be'lakor, because it was just that 4 extra damage that went through, and he couldn't get the feel no pains on the knight, and he then fought on death for 1 CP and just annihilated Be'lakor. But I was like, you know what, model for model, big thing versus big thing, I guess that was a fair trade-off, because I was his big melee knight, so I was like, yeah, you gotta go. So I have that. And then, so I have a Great Unclean one, Rodicus, Demon Prince, who's walking, and Be'lakor. I also have 3 units of Plague Bearers. I have 3 units of Nurglings. I have 2 9s and 1 3, and 2 single beasts. I feel like that's it's been serving me pretty well, and I can see the combos with it. And like I said earlier, Be'lakor giving a bubble of being untargetable is really, really spicy. It's just going to be the Be'lakor bubble now.
Well, and the way you use the Nurglings in our game was like they're deceptively difficult to deal with. Like, obviously, if you bring a bigger thing, then they're not. But they're a 35-point model. Or
no, they're not.
Squad.
They're 13.
13 points.
A model. They're 3 for 40.
Okay, sorry. I thought it was 3 for 35.
Nope.
But yeah, so you screened me out of a lot. Like, you cut off a lot of movement because they just took up space.
Yeah.
And they are like charging them. You're -1 to hit them, which is just silly. Like, it cuts down so much, and then like they're not hard to kill, but they also come back.
And with that idea of like being -1 to hit, they're not innately -1 to hit. What they do is they have a bubble of your enemy units are -1 to hit. So what I've also done with them is like have 3 or 2 or whatever the stragglers are left behind next to Bellacore or Great Unclean One. So if you attack them, you are -1 to hit because of those Nurglings there.
Yeah, so like they're really strong, and they're like it's like they're like a harassment unit.
Yeah, I've been trying to play this Nurgling tar pit idea where I put them around an objective because I know that they can't hold an objective, but neither can you if you cannot get on that objective. And then I put like a unit of Plague Bears towed on, and since Plague Bears are sticky innately, I can just put them back into the warp and then just try to hold as best as I can.
And I will also say that it worked. You tied up a squad of Noise Marines for 4 turns, I think, before they actually managed to kill the Nurglings that were like surrounding this objective.
And not only that, is you shot them with your Noise Marines, forcing a battle shock, and then I got 3 models back.
I did. Because you also can't not cause a battle shock test.
Yeah.
So, fun fact, when you fight demons, if you bring a battle shock heavy list, you're going to be actively regenerating your enemy.
As long as it's Shadow of Chaos.
Which, if they control the objective, it is.
Yeah, and there's strats out there where you can make like a 6-inch bubble around objectives, Shadow of Chaos. Like there's all these little tiny shenanigans that will hopefully streamline somehow. So you just gotta dig for it. And that's what I love about like new books and new editions, and just especially being told by the public and the community like, oh, they suck, and then that just makes you want to dig deeper. You're like, no, you've challenged, I agree, so let me find that combo. And I think I'm getting close.
Well, like talking about like kind of moving into 10th versus 9th, like my first 2 games I brought like the 10 block of Terminators because that's just what you did in 9th. And there's so much fight on death out there now, it's too many points. And they were over, if I got them in first, they were overkilling and then being absolutely like wasted on the backswing. So I feel like there's so many little things that just like as you kind of piece together what other factions can do as you play more games, it's like the kind of traditional wisdom that you come from starts breaking apart. And like, yeah, something like Nurglings, it's like at first glance you're like, well, they can't hold an objective, but like they can tie up your opponent in like silly charges. Like who wants to take like a 500 point unit and throw them at Nurglings, and then they're 3 inches away from Bellacore when they kill them. And then like you have completely set the tone for your turn, and your opponent killed some Nurglings.
Yep, barely.
Which is just, yeah. So many wounds. So yeah, it's like little interactions like that where like...
And they do actions. So, and like I was saying, like, I think we're going to start seeing people understand secondaries a little bit more, and that's where the lists are going to start to tailor, because having those small units being able to drop wherever you need to do that action, like a unit of 3 Nurglings, okay, I need to be in the center of the board, or I need to be in the corners, like 9 inches within the corners, or behind enemy lines. That's a lot of points, especially when you're playing tactical.
Yeah, and like I play such a slow army, like, which it didn't used to be slow, but losing Emperor's Children, here we are. James Workshop even.
I think they shuddered a little bit.
I hope so. They need to get working on that codex. So like, yeah, like investigate signals, like the corner one, like it's almost unplayable for me because like I don't have enough fast units and I can't teleport.
Not at all.
Like I can deep strike things,
but only 5.
But I can't. The only thing I can do, the bikes can go back into strategic reserve if they're wholly within 6 inches of a table edge. But they're already my fast unit, so that's like not usually the one that's the issue. So yeah, like that's one of those ones where it's like that's a mission that like I really struggle with, because like trying to hoof back like noise marines into a corner is super annoying, versus like, because it like sends them the wrong way. Like I'm not usually in table corners turn one or turn two. So yeah, just like learning how those missions interact with your army is like probably going to be a ton of the next like 3 to 6 months of Warhammer for us all.
For sure. How many missions do you think you are successful at? Like, I say, maybe how many percentage of them? 75%?
The killing ones are usually pretty easy. Because that's what I do. Any of the ones that fight over the middle, because I have so much that just kind of like, clobbers things, is usually not too bad. So even like I struggle, like deploy teleport homers is either middle or enemy deployment zone. I struggle with the enemy deployment zone, but it's not hard to get those 3 points. Yeah, like taking objectives is not usually that big of an issue. Like if I throw something in that direction, just because I do have enough that'll kill something off an objective. So I feel like it's probably like 60% of them are like generally doable in games that I've had.
And the rest you just throw away for the CP.
The rest are like way more situational. It's like it really depends on what's going on the table. Investigate signals is like definitely never going to happen. That's a throwaway for CP. Or even if the game's tight enough, spend the CP to get rid of it. Yeah. How about you?
I feel pretty good with most of them. Obviously, Assassinate's a little bit tougher, like especially the first round. I'm not getting that, so that's definitely a toss. If I feel like that's a situational one, but I do feel very good with my teleportation to be able to do the signals and teleport homers and get those quick 5 points.
Yeah, see, Assassinate's a weird one where it's like, because Abaddon is such a known threat, if you put him on the table, people hunt him. And then because he can potentially fight on death, he usually kills the thing that fought him.
Oh, really? I
warned you. I did tell you that.
Yeah, but I know that inside your brain, you're like,
well, when you were like, I'm going to do it, I just want to see what happens, I was like, well, I know how this is going to end. I just thought you were going to kill more.
I know. I didn't think I was going to die.
6 attacks?
I thought we were going to be stuck in combat for like a turn or two.
Nah. Abaddon just slaps. Well, Abaddon has more attacks than Be'lakor.
Be'lakor's like, I'm the big demon of all the Chaos Gods, and then Abaddon just slapped him across the face like, no, I'm the
Abaddon's
big dog.
like, I get sustained hits and lethal hits on 5-ups and can reroll all hits. Here's
and can we also talk about your
saves.
dice? Your dice were insane.
It was a spicy.
I saw a lot of the Tau symbol.
Tau dice, I've said this on this podcast before. My Tau dice in combat know what's up.
Not just your dice. I've seen a lot of Tau. Perhaps we need to put it in salt water.
For those of you who maybe don't know that story, there was a GT winner who was found out to be cheating. Were they also playing Eldar, though? Like, they were playing Eldar.
Yeah. I don't know if he was a winner, but like, because it was like round.
No, he won the GT.
How? He was disqualified. I think he was winning.
He was after. Was he winning or did he won?
No, I think it was round 4, they said. And the guy was like, you know what? I have my suspicion. And he went and, like, the opponent went and got salt water, tested out the dice, found out they were weighted. And the guy, I guess, got disqualified, packed his stuff, went to the bathroom, threw his dice in the toilet.
He tried to flush the dice.
He tried to flush lead dice down the toilet. That's gonna be memed out of this universe, like.
Yeah, it's like, okay, you're already playing Eldar, and then you also had to weight the dice because the rules didn't already allow you to weight the odds in your favor.
Well, what it was no, it wasn't just that. It was the he was using special dice for first turn, so they noticed that he was going first all of the time. So he just uses 1 dice, puts it back in his pocket, right? But at the same time, like, I've played 4 games and I've gone first every single one. So
I have played 5 games and I have gone first once. I
want to go second. I want to.
Sometimes I do, sometimes I don't. It's always it depends on the army.
Exactly, yeah.
Like, I don't know, facing up against Tau, I usually don't want to go first.
Yeah, I wouldn't mind it with my Bellacore bubble, so.
That's true. Yeah, no, I usually, I prefer, like, if Tau or Guard zinch around and find out, we'll say.
Yeah. Who are you looking forward to play against at the GT?
I actually do want to see Eldar. I want to see how it plays. I want to see.
You want to see a race night?
I don't know. Yeah, you know what I do. Because on it, yeah, like, I don't know. I feel like I want to see it. I have never been somebody who's like afraid to lose, and I kind of want to see what it looks like to play them. Do I want to play 4 rounds of Eldar? No, but I would play 1 happily. I do want to see Death Guard, just because I feel like they've been really poo-pooed on, and I want to see if on the table they do actually have a little bit of gas in the tank.
I can see a lot of Death Guard players copy and pasting that list that went 5-0. So you probably will see that.
Which is, like, I want them to have some gas. Like, it's unfortunate that the metas for them is so tight that that's what it's come to. But I've always liked Death Guard. I'd like to play some World Eaters just because, like, I still try and play my Chaos Space Marines very Slaneshi, so, like, I try and play them fast versus, like, the Khorne, like, fight hard, and I always kind of like to see that interaction. Yeah, I want to see Guard just because that's, like, I didn't actually play Guard in 9th, so it's been a long time, and I have a little bit of, if I was ever going to play an Imperial army, it would probably be Guard. They're close to my heart. I might make them a little spikier, and I might not necessarily like
Traitor Guard.
Them. They might look a little. There might not be a commissary in that particular regiment, we'll say. But I definitely have a soft spot for Guard.
You want some big tanks? I want to see other demons and see how they're playing and what kind of list that they're putting together. I'm suspecting it's going to be a lot of Be'lakors. I think Be'lakor is like the centerpiece of demons, and a lot of big boys after that. That
ability is too good. Like all the other issues.
But come on, that's all he has.
But if it's only one thing you got, it's a good thing.
It's a great thing.
And it hides everything.
And it snuck through the first data slate, so shh.
Don't put it in your whimpers.
No, I didn't. Of course not. That was through my chuckles. Anyone else? I'd like to see. I think there's some AdMech that's going. I know Tyrion's. I think we're actually going to be having probably all factions being represented. So
I didn't actually realize that there was AdMech going, because I would also like to see them, because that's another one of those, like, I like to see like on kind of the high end and the low end, like what people can do.
Yeah. Other than that, I think it's just going to be a fun time everyone's going to try to figure out the roles together. I don't envy the TO who has to do the event.
We see you, Josh. We know the work you're putting in this weekend.
Good luck. And just see where the local meta is going to be, because obviously everyone around the world is playing Eldar, but is that where we're going to be at? And because the data, like, Josh was kind enough to allow us to submit our lists on the Thursday before the GT, I think has allowed people to craft their list a little bit better and not trying to worry about it and have some time practicing. So yeah, I think most people are just really excited to just be there. I know a lot of people, it's going to be for their first GT. So I'm more excited to just like meet new people and just invite them into this wonderful game of Warhammer.
I hadn't realized. I don't keep up as much on the Halifax scene. I didn't realize there's that many new players coming for a GT. So that's actually very exciting.
I've seen a lot of like in my Discord, people are like, "Oh, this is my first GT. This is my first GT. My first GT." So, yeah.
That actually, you know what? That makes it a little bit more special then, because it was literally the same GT last year was my first time playing Warhammer in 10 years. So that's kind of a nice full circle moment. So you know what? I do hope I play some of these new folks and have a fun game, and I hope they enjoy it as well.
I think they're going to, yeah.
I think it's gonna be a good time, and you know, it's gonna be as janky as a first tournament out of a new edition with indexes is likely going to be.
Yeah.
I hope games at least run smoothly. I just hope folks don't have any kind of like feel bad, like get to turn 2 moments and stuff like that. That's not fun for anyone.
But I think what Josh did is very smart to do for the first GT. He predetermined all the missions, and he made sure that the missions where you move objectives were completely scrapped from the pile. So these are just kind of basic missions, because I know that I don't know about you, but I felt it where trying to determine the mission felt kind of clunky, and there's a lot to it. Now that there's no longer just 9 types of missions with their built-in mission pack into it, you now have random missions, and there's so many varieties you can choose from. So I think Josh doing that was a excellent decision on his part.
I liked the mission that we drew. We drew like the most chaotic combination of course. Mission rules, because of course, what was it? It was vital supplies, supply drop. Like we had 6 objectives that we placed, and then also objectives that then disappeared. And we had, and
then were worth more.
It was absolutely ridiculous, and I like that that's a possibility now, though, because like that game will function like very few others. So I like that that's an option, but yeah, in like a tournament setting, I think having a little bit of consistency and a little bit more like, you know, you're more so learning like deployment zones and like objective placement, not necessarily like just pure chaos.
Yeah, because like there's actually more than a few that's just like move the objective into your opponent's deployment zone. Like, I think that's the last thing we kind of need at a GT, and like the first GT is trying to move objectives, and you might change terrain, and
What's the ritual? Is that the one where you like summon objectives?
Oh, I don't know.
That one, I've played that one, and it's a lot of fun, but it's a little crazy, because it's like you're like running into no man's land, just like, where can I put an objective I can actually hold? Like,
but that's great. Like, that's added so much spice to the game, instead of just knowing that, okay, I know this mission, I know to be in this exact spot and to shoot you off and just try to like kill you off as quickly as possible. Now it's like, oh, I have a mission to do. I actually have to perform it.
How do you feel about a lot of the missions not scoring on the objective on your deployment zone?
I like it, because I want you to come closer to me.
I do too. I think it's a good change. I think it's a healthy change that like...
But there's still some things that, like, say for demons, I need to hold your objective to make a Shadow of Chaos. So that's my benefit to it. Yeah, it doesn't score me anything, but it's given me something. But for other armies, I can see that just, what's the point? Yeah,
that's fair. And it does play into the secondaries. Like, you need to maintain some control of your deployment zone for, like, Defend Stronghold, for example, which is, I think that's a fairly easy one if you do, but if you just, like, completely move out of your deployment zone and let, Beast of Nurgle just like sit in your deployment zone, then you're probably not going to get it. So there's definitely some like some more play with it, and it's like it's a risk and reward decision rather than I must hold my deployment zone.
I'm gonna put this 50-point unit just to sit here and hold it, or my 10 cultists just to sit here.
Your grots, your scarabs, your nurglings, which is like, what I am liking is I haven't played the same way in any of my games.
Yes, that is such a great point to make. You don't have one style. Like you are literally, when you draw those secondaries, you have to change your tactics.
Yeah.
I love it.
And like from the list building stage, you're like, okay, I do need to have things that can be deployed towards secondaries. Like I need things that are faster. I need things that are not essential to playing just primaries. Like I need things that can be diverted. And I think that changes the way you play. So like when we talk about like things like the Wraith Knights and like, yes, they're big, killy models. But if you bring 2 of them, you're then playing the rest of the game with like very little as far as like resources for playing secondaries. So if you lose those knights very quickly, you then have nothing to actually play the game with. So like it's a bigger risk and reward. And I know like with the way Strands of Fate was working, you didn't have an army to play with either, and that's why it didn't feel great. But like hopefully with with these changes, like it's enough of a disincentive that like you're gonna have to focus more on actually like playing a game where you engage with your opponent.
Yeah. Have you played with fixed missions?
No, because I feel like I played so much 9 with fixed missions that I don't want to.
Yes,
but I also I didn't love the way Tempest worked, because they were all worth the same amount. And it felt more like you had to build a Tempest list. Like you needed to have a list that did everything. Like, what do you do if you draw overwhelming firepower and you don't have any guns? You just like loot, like you just don't score that turn. Like stuff like that. Whereas like I feel like the scoring on the new secondaries is like, if you really like shoot the moon, like if you Bring It Down and you like absolutely rip through your opponent's vehicles and monsters, you can score 8 points with it. That's awesome. But like if you only manage to pop 1, you still get 2 points, which is like, so there's some give and take there. Like there's multiple levels of completion.
Yeah,
and
or
like
it's that, or you get a CP because you just throw it away.
Yeah, so it's like, if you can't do it, you don't have the resources to do it, you can still come out stronger the next turn.
How do you feel about starting with 0 CP?
I think effectively you're starting with 1, because like when you start the game, you have 1.
Yeah.
I do miss having it. But also the stratagem combos are not there anymore that I used to use. Like I used to, on some games burn through 4 CP in the first turn to just like warp drive some Terminators across the field as Emperor's Children, which is not even remotely close to an option anymore. So like I feel like, yeah, you're making choices. It's harder to make those choices. Like, if you get charged turn 1, it's like, do I blow the 1 CP I have? You have to make those decisions. So I feel like it makes you play the game more.
Yes.
Rather than just like sit on your bank and be like, well, is it time to activate like a strategy C? Like, no, it's like you're reacting to everything that happens and you have to make hard choices. And that's what this game is about.
Yeah, and there's a lot less spending a CP to reroll.
I don't think I've done a CP, maybe 1.
Yeah, I've done it for like a save, like
yeah,
if I really need to save something, but That's pretty much
and
it.
it's like, yeah, if you're like right on the wire, like this is the difference between having this unit and not having the unit. I think that was what it was. How about you? How do you feel about the CP?
I like it only because like I didn't really have powerful CP to start with. Like my stratagems were quite poor in ninth. And then going up against an army that has blown all of their CP before the game even started, like that. So I am okay with it because it never benefited me in the first place.
I like that enhancements are points.
Yeah,
I think that's a much cleaner way of doing things because yeah, you had armies
100.
that like it'd be like 6 CP and then they'd come out with like 3, big stupid blown up units and either stomp you or you stomp them and then they're gone. Whereas like the CP now, honestly, like when I came back to Warhammer, the stratagems and CP were probably one of the like jankier feeling parts of the game. And I still feel that to some extent, but I feel it less in this edition because units have more flavor. Like every unit has a thing that makes it different. They all have some kind of special rule, and I really like that.
I agree, yeah.
So I think we're, I guess, coming to the end of our first impressions. If you were to summarize your thesis, how do you feel? What are your thoughts? And I guess like looking into this GT, like where do you feel like Warhammer is right now?
I give it 7 out of 10.
7 snurglings out of 10? Is that
Yeah. I feel very good, and that I think most of my feelings on that is the drawing of the missions and the mission secondaries. I think that's where most of the good is. And then having the teleportation with demons. So overall, positive still. I don't feel like they're as bad as 9th. Going into the GT, I'm excited to roll some dice and then feel absolutely tired by the end of 2 days and not be able to think.
I do feel revitalized a bit for 10th. I feel excited. I feel like making lists is fun again. I feel like thinking about a game is fun again.
Yes.
Because it's new and it's like I feel like I'm learning a lot every game, whereas like by the end of 9th, it was like, okay, if I had have done this one thing, it would have changed. Like we were getting very nitpicky, whereas now I feel like it's like, oh wow, I really underestimated that, or like I really need to rethink this strategy. Like, oh, that really didn't work, or that really did work, and like you're excited about it. Like I feel like it's very like big moments, so I'm really excited about that. I do think that they didn't quite land where they said they were trying to land.
Yeah.
I question some of the playtesting maybe that like things don't quite feel like where they should be. It does very much feel like I feel like with my army, I'm very dependent on CP still to like have survivability, which I don't love. Like the units that should be tough aren't tough enough.
Yeah.
On their own, they need help, and maybe that's the way they designed it, but like I also don't feel like I am exceptionally killy. Like it's a glass cannony faction, but like playing like Imperial Knights, for example, I got absolutely out-killed.
Yeah, your cannon shots are glass as well. Just shattered on a knight.
So it's like I also wasn't feeling I was super killy, and then also was getting like decimated. So yeah, I don't feel like they got kind of the backbone of the toughness right. But no, I think overall definitely excited to roll some dice and see people playing differently. And I'm really excited to just like play different types of games because I feel like things had gotten very
stale.
Yeah, like monotonous. Like it was very like, okay, you're gonna play your faction secondaries, I'm gonna play my faction secondaries.
There was no connection like of the battle.
Yeah.
Like fighting over territory or anything like that. It was just like, okay, you're really good at doing primaries, and you have auto secondaries. So I'll see you in 3 hours. Oh, it's been an hour and a half. It's done. And which is something I'd like to add too. Is like I right now people may feel like games go on longer because I think trying to understand the secondaries and reading them is what's taking up most of the time. But I love that the psychic phase is gone. It just feels so much quicker to go move, shoot, fight, and then it's your turn. Like, it just feels good. I feel like you could get a good game in 2 hours.
I do. I think it's definitely more streamlined. It's definitely cleaner, and it is faster. Like, having played a few games with people who are like have kind of memorized the rules. So like where a lot of us are going to end up, like not kind of sitting there playing, like reading index cards the whole time. Games are like 2.5 hours. Like, it's like, I think maybe it might not happen in this tournament, but like the next one, I think you're going to see like a 3-hour round is very doable for most players. And I really like that.
Yes. And I also like not losing models to morale. That is a positive change for me. I'm very happy about that.
There might be some bad memories about 30 blocks of plague bears there. Is that what you're getting at?
And Nurglings.
And
because like it's my first game, I lost like 3 Nurglings, and I was like, oh no, I'm gonna have to do a morale test. And we spent like 10 minutes looking for the book. I was like, because I kept seeing like Bellicor on his data sheet says leadership test, so I just assumed that morale was still a thing. And there are some incidents that you take morale or leadership tests. So trying to find it, just can't find it. And I was like, Josh, do we take morale anymore? And he's like, no. I was like, what? You mean I don't lose models? He's like, nah. I was like, oh my God, thank you. Because it felt even worse when you lose models from shooting or fighting, and then you roll 2 dice and you roll really poorly, and then you have to then lose more models after that. That's just like, just kick me while I'm down. and then you fight. And then you used to fight Space Marines and Thousand Suns, and they're like, yeah, I don't care about morale.
It's, you know what, having an army that was mostly like leadership 9, 10, and 11, it was it wasn't super relevant, but I do like the battle shock is relevant. Like, it is like, my list has a lot of battle shock tests built into it, and it has made a difference. Like, shutting down somebody, like, there's so much interaction with stratagems now and with battle shock. Like, Necrons don't regenerate without, well, they're battle shocked. Like, things like Fight on Death are all tied to strats now, so if you can't use a stratagem on something, then that's a very different outcome when you charge in.
And losing the OC is very important. So it's like, oh, you're just like a nerdling, just like me.
I mean, if you triggered within a round, that doesn't affect the objective play to the same extent, unless you need to like control it for a secondary or something. Because battle shock resets at the beginning of your command phase.
Right. Correct. Yeah.
So that was maybe I thought that's how it worked at first, and I was like, oh, that's really good, and it's not as good as I thought it was. But yeah, I like battle shock versus morale tests.
Yeah.
And having to make about 35,000 of them every round with Dark Pact, you think, oh, a 6-up is easy to get, and it is sometimes, and then sometimes you roll 5 of them under in a row, and you lose half your army. So, you know?
Not in our game. You're like, oh, Dark Pact. Oh, Dark Pact. But then I played Blood God last night, who played Chaos Space Marines, and he was failing all of his Dark Pact. And it was just like he took a lot of mortal wounds. So I was like, you're losing like a quarter of your army just before you get to me.
It makes it, you know, you think it doesn't matter, but like you got a unit on 2 wounds and you fail a Dark Pact, and you're like, actually, yeah, that is what I have CP rerolled, was that those leadership tests where it's like, ooh, this demon prince has 2 wounds left and failed the dark pact. I really needed to not be dead.
Yeah. Thank God I have 1 CP.
Right. You're like, okay. I wanted to use that for other things, but here we go. But yeah, I guess any last thoughts before we wrap up?
Nope, I am looking forward to the weekend, to seeing you again, and rolling
Aww.
all the dice.
All the dice.
Yeah.
Well, with that note, thank you all for joining us. I hope you've enjoyed this chat about 10th edition. It's a bit of a different kind of podcast from what we have been doing, but I think we were both so excited kind of coming out of those first few games that we wanted to just like dish on it. So we hope you'll subscribe to Chaos Divided, both here, wherever you're listening from, and on Instagram and YouTube at Chaos Divided 40k, and you can find us both on social media at Nurgle_Snurgle and at BlushingNoiseMarine. And until next time, bye-bye.
Ciao for now.